Have you ever wondered what it's like for a teenager to be homeschooled, like from their perspective? When I started homeschooling my kids, Katie here was 12 years old, and
Hi.
now she is 17. And we are going to talk to Katie about her experience homeschooling and what that's been like transitioning from public school to the homeschooling world.
Hello, and welcome to School to Homeschool. I am Janae Daniels. I'm a wife, a mother of 6, and a former middle school teacher turned homeschool mom. I have kids in their 20s all the way down to elementary age and everything in between. Are you thinking about pulling your kids from the school system like I did, but you're scared to death and don't know what to do next? My friends, I felt the same way, and you have come to the right place. I want to help your family leave the system so that you can take the hearts and minds of your children back.
You were public schooled up until age 12.
Yes.
How did you like school? Like, let everyone know how you felt about school.
I will be honest, I did like school, but it was also elementary school where it's still kind of fun for younger kids. And I had some of the best teachers, I want to say.
Yeah, you had some really good teachers. And then she did a little bit of middle school, and then COVID hit because it was in 6th grade, towards the end of 6th grade in March, when COVID hit. And so she finished schooling out at home, but we didn't really think of it as homeschooling because they'd still go online, and it was COVID schooling, y'all.
Yeah.
But then that summer was when we decided to homeschool. And what was your reaction when I approached you and said, hey, we're going to start homeschooling?
I'm going to be honest, I didn't really think you were going to go through with it. I thought it was a thought. But I just didn't really know how to react. I'm like, okay. I mean, I had one of my best friends actually homeschooled for all of her life. And so I'm like, okay, I can sort of see it.
And she liked homeschooling.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah, she's in a different state than us, but she actually had a really good experience homeschooling.
Yeah. Anyway, so I just wasn't really sure. And I was like, oh, okay.
Okay, so do you remember when we started the school year? It was 2020. We started homeschooling July of 2020. Katie was 12. She had 2 older brothers who went to public school and graduated. And then she has one older brother, Joshua, who I've interviewed, who has a very different personality than Katie. Katie tends to be more shy. Josh is not shy. He's super loud. And then under Katie, there's 2 more siblings. So before we get into like that first the first little while, what was your relationship with your siblings before you started homeschooling?
That's hard to say because I was kind of young. It was different. I mean, we'd all hang out together, but there wasn't much time to spend with each other because of school and then getting home, and then we all wanted to do our own thing. I mean, sometimes we played games together, but then it's like, I want to do this. Well, I want to do this. And sometimes we still have that, but I feel like we're more connected now a little bit because we can do sibling hangouts whenever we want.
Yeah, and they actually hang out a lot. Like this morning, they walked to the grocery store.
Wait, they did?
Oh, you did? Or was that yesterday?
That
you went and got donuts?
That was yesterday.
Okay, so yeah, they, unbeknownst to me, they decided, we live very close to a grocery store, so they walked to the grocery store, got donuts all together. And she'll let her younger sister and brother hang out with her friends, and her friends don't care because they do the same with their siblings. So because they're also homeschooled. Okay, so let's talk about that first week. I remember for me, it was a nightmare. Do you remember that first day?
I do.
Okay, let's talk about that first day of homeschooling. What was that like for you?
So I don't know what I was expecting. I think more so I was like, okay, it's going to be like school at home, but more freedom. it was kind of terrible.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. I love you, Mom, but it wasn't the best experience because we got sat down, and I usually don't like the first day of school in where we have to sit down and then talk about what we're going to do. I really personally like to actually get down to what we're going to do, actually learning and stuff instead of talking about our schedule with learning, which I do like schedules now, but it's kind of boring, and that doesn't really like let me pay attention as much.
So now, if you want to hear the whole story, y'all, you can watch some of the previous episodes where I discuss our beginning of our homeschooling journey that first day. But that day, what changed and made the day more interesting?
Well, my mom was boring us with plans, and then it's study hard. You got to do this, that. So much restriction. And we had the piano tuner here, and we're he's playing some pretty good songs. So we went upstairs, and we were just listening to him play the piano. I don't think I had ever seen a piano being tuned before because we hadn't ever tuned it really. But it was really cool to see how everything worked.
Mm-hmm.
And I mostly just wanted to hear the songs that were being played.
Yeah.
Because he was really good at playing the piano, and that's whenever there's a pianist that's playing really well, I enjoy the music that's played.
Yeah, and I would say you enjoyed listening to him more than you liked listening to me.
Oh, definitely.
Okay, so then, y'all, that's when I shifted things because I realized that my kids it wasn't going to work doing school at home, right? I had everything planned out down to the minute, and it was a disaster. And like Katie said, she actually liked school. So then we started to change things up. Do you remember what we ended up doing?
It's been a while, but we ended up deschooling or whatever it's called, and we started to unlearn our the stuff we learned from school, all the schedules, this at this time, all the periods we had to do, and we started going on little mini field trips. I remember my mom found this lady at the farmer's market who made soap, and so she got her business card, and then she called her, and she's like, hey, do you do anything for homeschoolers? And so my mom got a group together, and this lady taught us how to make soap, and me, and I know my little brother now, we remember it.
Did you like it?
We enjoyed it, because she taught us how the soap was made with the lye and all the other stuff, and it was really interesting to learn about, and we got soap out of it. So
I got a big soap loaf.
Yeah.
Do you remember when we went to Texas and went to the Texas History Museum?
I do.
And I gave you a packet because I was still okay, no. Even though we were trying to de-school, I'm okay, but I should get a packet and have worksheets for them for the Texas History Museum. What was your sentiment about that packet, that said packet?
Well, it was sort of interesting, but it was also we're going on vacation to a wedding. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be focusing on this paper. I'd rather write my own stuff down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so it was after that experience that I stopped doing packets and worksheets for field trips and things like that, because I realized they learn their own, they get out of it with the things that are interesting to them. That's what sticks for them.
Yeah.
Do you remember some of the other field trips that we went on?
There were so many.
Or your favorite field trips?
There were so many. I can't. It's been a while. Like I said. Okay. This one wasn't really a field trip, but we did do some like science experiments, and I'm not too fond of science, but this one was really fun because we got to put Coke and Mentos, and we made a little rockets out of the Coke and Mentos, and we were doing it at our friend's house with in the cul-de-sac, and their door was open, and we threw the bottle down on the ground, and it exploded and went all the way close to the open door, like hitting the steps. It almost
went in.
It almost
the
went in
door.
the house.
Yeah, had the top step not hit, like stopped it, it would have gone straight into the house.
Straight through.
I mean, it was kind of hilarious, but terrible. Okay, so that first year was, I would say, for me as a mom, it was pretty rough. How did you feel from your perspective? How was that for you?
I will say, up until we did the field trips and other stuff, it didn't feel like I was learning anything, and like, it just didn't feel like I was learning anything, which I was, but it doesn't feel like that, especially like going through school, when you're like, okay, like I've done all these subjects, and this is what learning is supposed to feel like for a public schooler. It's interesting.
Was it a weird adjustment for you?
Oh, it was definitely a weird adjustment, because I'm like, I don't know what to do with myself. Is this learning? Like, am I getting anything out of this?
Did you find that, what were some of your feelings? Like, were you frustrated? Were you okay with it? Like, what was going on in your head at the time, that first year?
I mean, I didn't mind homeschool. It was just weird. And I was frustrated at some points because I don't really like math. And the math curriculum I had just wasn't making sense to me. And so there were a lot of feelings. Like, some days were better than others. I definitely enjoyed some of the field trips. Some of them weren't as enjoyable. But
it sounds like, though, you struggled with, like, am I actually learning anything? And did you ever feel like, oh, is it okay if I don't learn anything, or did it make you nervous for the future?
I don't know what I thought about the future. I'm like, I don't know what to do. But I think now, as like almost, actually, I'm going to be a senior this year, I've definitely have learned some stuff, and it's just taken a while to realize it, that learning is not like a set thing.
Yeah. I think it's, we have to shift our view of what learning is, because it's supposed to be organic. It's supposed to be fun. And unfortunately, the way that the school system is set up, it kills the love of learning for most kids. And you were a good student. I mean, you had your struggles with certain classes, but you put your heart and soul into your homework and would spend hours.
I did. Homework. I enjoyed some of it. I still never made it into talented and gifted.
Okay, let's talk about that a little bit, because did that bother you? And
yes, it greatly bothered me.
Why?
Because it's called talented and gifted, and it made me feel like I wasn't smart enough to be in that class or any class. And that was really frustrating to me, because I'm like, my brother got in, why can't I get in? If he's smart, why can't I be smart too? And like, why are these kids called gifted? Like, am I not talented or gifted? It really like shifted my perspective of myself a lot. To some point, even still, I'm like, do I have talents? But it definitely hurt, and it wasn't great.
Yeah. So I think Katie, you bring up a good point, and I just want to say this. After she tested for talented and gifted and didn't get in the talented and gifted program, she has ever since then regularly asked me, like, do you think I have gifts? Am I talented at things? Like, and I saw a shift in her that like she's always been talented. She's always been gifted, incredibly gifted. And yet that single test affected her, just like when kids are put in the lowest reading group and then they spend years thinking that I must be stupid, right? Unfortunately, the more I've learned about the education system, the more I've learned that was done intentionally. So kids would start to doubt themselves, that it would start to separate kids out, which is emotionally, I feel like it's very damaging to kids, because kids come with their own gifts. They come with their own talents. And Katie is intensely talented and gifted. So one of the things that I noticed when that first year of homeschooling is you started reading a lot. Like, you already read.
Yes.
But that's when you became, if you y'all look at her earrings. If you're listening, you can't see them, but it's literally a stack of books.
They're huge, bigger than I normally.
Yeah, they're book earrings, right? She is a bookworm to the nth degree. So let's talk about that, because you had a lot of free time. And so what made you turn to books?
Okay, I will say I got into reading when I was younger. So when I was in second grade, didn't care for reading. I'm like, why do I need to do this? And then I think in third grade, my brother was preparing for the Battle of the Books. And so I was like, oh, that piqued my interest. And then my brother was in the Battle of the Books in fifth grade. And so in fourth grade, I started reading a little more than I would, like reading all those books in the list. And then fifth grade came and I was like, it's my turn for Battle of the Books. So I read a lot of the books, not all of them. I think I read like 20.
I'm going to pause you for a second. So Battle of the Books in Colorado, and I don't know if it's all of Colorado, but in fifth grade, they have this long book list, and the kids who read the books can be on a team where they compete against kids from other schools within the state, answering questions about the books. And so they call it Battle of the Books, and there's a book list given at the beginning of fifth grade. And so Katie wanted to participate that in a huge way.
Yeah, it was one of the only clubs I ever really participated in. But I did it. I only read like 25 books. Not many books, because there's 50 books.
On the list, yeah.
On the list, and maybe 30.
No, I think there's like 30 books on the list, because you read a good chunk of them.
I thought it was 50 though.
Maybe. Anyway, it's a lot of books.
So I read a couple of the books. Unfortunately, that day I was sick, so I was pushing through that day because I wanted to be there. But I was a substitute, so I went out when somebody went in, because we were a team. But then after I started homeschooling, I borrowed somebody's book, which I feel bad because I haven't been able to return it to her.
Now, which book is it?
Wings of Fire.
Okay.
It's the second book, because she got me into that series in sixth grade, and then COVID happened, and then I never saw her again, so I couldn't give back the book. I have no idea what happened to her.
Oh, well, there's that. So if you find this friend who let her borrow the book, reach out, because we'll get the book back to you.
Which I feel really bad about that, because I'm like, I don't know how to contact her. So I felt bad about that. But then that got me into that series, and by the time I was in seventh grade, I had finished, I was reading books I don't know.
They were thicker books.
They were a little bit thicker books, and I read those in 2 days, not one. I'm not that fast of a reader.
And why? Why were you able to read them so quickly, Katie Daniels?
Because I had a lot more time on my hands, and I didn't have too much to do. I was still transitioning, so I'm I don't know what to do, but I did read a lot. I came to love a lot of books, and now I have a full library
in her room. Yeah, no, it's a library, y'all, in her room.
Not really, because the library is, to have a library, you have to have 1,000 books.
Oh, gotcha.
I don't think I have more than 100 in there, maybe 200.
So one of the things is, she mentioned that we started deschooling, and if you're unfamiliar with the term deschooling, I do a whole episode. I actually do 2 different episodes on deschooling. that would be helpful, and I will link those in the show notes so you can look those up. But deschooling is essentially the process, the adjustment process that you make going from public school to homeschool. And in the deschooling process, you do very little in the way of academics. Most people will say, "Oh, don't do anything in the way of academics," but that freaked all of us out.
Yeah.
Because we're like, "What? We have to do something." So then we're like, "You have to read, write, and do math, and then that's it." And we'll go on field trips. And so you had all this, because then you have all this time on your hands. And so we did cooking. You started cooking a lot. You started reading. Do you remember, and I've shared this about this in past episodes, do you remember what subject you became kind of obsessed with?
Oh, okay. Because I started reading a lot, I got a lot of books for Christmas, and one of them happened to be historical fiction. I think this one was about World War II, and that was really interesting to me because I was like, oh, because I've heard about World War II, but I don't think we ever went too much in depth to it.
Yeah, certainly not at school you didn't.
And so I started loving history. I mean, I've always liked history, but then when I got homeschooled, it's become a passion for me. I like learning about history, and obviously sometimes it's boring. It definitely depends on who the teacher is and what you're reading about, because there are some boring teachers in books. But I became really interested in it because it was fascinating how these people lived their lives and how they got through that time period, because the hardships they had and everything.
So the next year, which here's a question for you, because the next year we actually had you in a history class.
Yes, in a co-op.
In a co-op, we did a Thomas Jefferson Education co-op history class, which was fabulous. It was absolutely fabulous. But where would you say, how would you say that history affects you the most? Is it through a class or is it through historical fiction? Where does it really resonate, or where did you really start? You started to love it when you read the historical fiction, but where does it really stick in your brain?
I really like learning the facts, but also, which is something that's also interesting to me, is where it lies on the scale of time, because it's history. And so this thing could be happening then, but I didn't really know when things happened or what happened. And so looking back, it's oh, this happened and I didn't know that. And there's a lot of people who don't know history and don't know the lessons that can be learned from history, because I've heard somewhere a lot of times that history repeats itself. And it does if you look at it. But having the opportunity to learn about history and the past is really cool. And then learning about ancestors, and it just shows what they had to go through, and it where everything puts into place. Putting stuff into place in my brain was really cool to me, because I'm oh, this happened and then this happened, and I know a lot of cool facts now.
Do you feel so? In the class that she was in, they had the kids read a lot of historical fiction, and then there was some. So what were some of the books that you read? You read The Red Scarf Girl. Yes. And that was actually, I think, nonfiction.
Yes.
What else did you read? The Notorious Benedict Arnold.
The Notorious Life of Benedict Arnold.
That was a good one.
There was a book about John Adams.
What else?
A lot of Revolutionary War books, because that was the history. What was
that was the theme? Was the Revolutionary War that first semester?
I remember books from the second year.
What were some of the other books in the second year? And we did a co-op for 2 years, so
yeah. So,
actually, there were 2 different co-ops, but it was both through Thomas Jefferson Education.
The first year was the Revolutionary War. The second was Civil War, World War I, and World War II. We read a lot of books the second year that I remember. We read To Kill a Mockingbird, Uncle Tom's Cabin, books about that. We read Flag of Our Fathers, which was really fun. And I enjoyed the co-ops, learning about the classes and stuff.
Yeah, she got super competitive because there were awards, and she wanted to win everything. I didn't know she had that competitive streak in her, and then I discovered very quickly that she's super competitive and will win.
Neither did I, but I guess I like completing stuff.
So how was your reading experience in school different than your reading experience starting to homeschool and within the co-ops? Like what was different about that?
Well, I could read what I wanted to, and it didn't affect the time management that I had because of all the like homework. And then like school books are just so boring, to be honest. With the co-op books that they had us read, I know Josh didn't really
he did not read them.
Enjoy them.
Yeah.
But I think with like certain people like certain things. And so I really enjoyed reading the books first. And then there were certain, like my mom said, special awards to go with the books. And things you could earn. And they were interesting books to begin with, I think.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Which they didn't, and they didn't get grades in this co-op, but they could win awards.
Yes.
Which she won all of them. Okay, so let's talk a little bit, because then that I feel like the first couple years as we were trying to get our bearings, friendships were a struggle for us, making friends, because we didn't know where to find any, honestly. Like we were trying to going to co-ops, and I was trying to do meetups. How was that for you, that first couple of years?
Well, the first couple of years, I had my friend who had just moved to Texas, but she moved, and I didn't really talk to her because I didn't have too much of a way of reaching out.
Yeah, and she was a public school friend.
And so that long distance was hard, you know. And then I still had my public school friend, which I met in 5th grade, but it was also hard hanging out with her and talking to her. Because she was in school and I wasn't, and with school comes a lot of homework, and it was just hard finding times that we could talk to each other or even like hang out and stuff. And the first year, it was really hard with friends because, like my mom said, we didn't know where to look for friends, which if you look in the right places, you can find them. But we had a family, 2 families I think we were with, and I was sort of friends with them. And then they moved, and I'm like, oh man. But I did have friends in the sense that I had siblings, because siblings can become the best of friends. And yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Would you say that it shifted your relationship with your siblings that time that you didn't have your peers as friends?
Yeah, we became closer. Sometimes it's still hard with siblings, but
always. I mean, that's always the case.
But you learn to love your siblings even more, I want to say, because you're just with them a lot of the time, and they become your best friends. And even those that you're not with, like you don't see for a while, like I hadn't seen my brother because he was, moved out. But then the times that I would see him, like it made it more special too, because he was chill with us.
Yeah, he was graduated. He was an adult, and
so he, and then we got along, and we just do stuff together. They're like, hey, do you want to do this? And we're like, heck yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so then we started another enrichment. By the year 3, we found another enrichment program. And let's talk about that a little bit. HSA, yeah.
Yes. So I did have some friends in the co-op, but they lived in Denver.
Yeah, because we drove up to, we're in Colorado Springs. We drove up to Denver.
Which is an hour away.
Co-op. Yeah, and so it makes it hard when they live an hour away. And anyway, that was tough. The first couple of years of friends, it was tough for us, y'all. It was tough.
Yeah, and you find friends where you could. So it's not like we're totally friendless, but it's hard making sort of lasting friends when
you're proximity. Yeah.
But I went to this enrichment program, which was theater. Mind you, I had done a couple things when I was younger, but not really much theater. And I had wanted to do a play in 5th grade, but I was really nervous and I didn't really want to audition. I was not excited about that. And so I was like, I want to be in the play, but I don't want to be on stage in front of people, which is funny because this enrichment program, which started in high school, my mom signed me up for the arts, which was like, oh, cool, it's going to be drawing and stuff. And she was like, no, it's theater. I was like, okay, this is going to be so much fun.
And then what happened?
Well, it's the first day of the enrichment program, and I was like, I didn't know what I was expecting. So I get there, and the teachers were really nice, and I made a friend the first day, because you always have to make a friend the first day.
And none of these kids really knew each other.
Yeah, it was a new program that they were doing. So there were some kids who came from the middle school program, but a lot of the kids were new. And so the first year we were so tight-knit, that group, because it was like the first year and there was not many people. So we knew everybody and we got to know everybody because the teachers, they were making it less cliquey. They were like, everyone's going to know everyone. And we had fun because we did a lot of stuff. We learned how to sing better. Like, I became more comfortable with singing in front of people, which at home I sing a lot all the time, but in front of other people, it is like, it's a little nerve-wracking to sing in front of people and just like, be weird in front of people. And then like we got to do actually building our own sets and trying to put together costumes. And by the time auditions came around, I'm like, personally for me, it would be easy. I'm a little lazy. It would personally be easier for me to audition than to not audition. And so I did the audition and I started light with the theater. And so it was fun. It was nerve-wracking. And this audition was interesting because for normal auditions, I've never done a real audition. They have you choose the songs. But for this one, because we had to like do it fast, there were so many kids to go through in one day because it was only one day of auditions. So they chose songs from the musical that we were doing, Cinderella, which we could choose from to sing. And then monologues we could choose from. And so we were in groups of 3. And I felt really comfortable at that time because you'd think it wouldn't be more comfortable with multiple people. But then when you're in like groups, like a group of people and you're like, I've already messed up. Like, sure, the people who audition you are like staring at you and it's kind of scary, but you've got the people next to you to laugh with. And so that was like that first year of HSA was really fun. And I made some really great friends.
I was going to say, because that's when you really, well, was it the first year or the second year that you really like solidified your little friend group? Well, was that more in the second year?
Like I had made so many friends and we hosted a lot of hangouts at my house. Like, who wants to do movie night? We had the best potlucks, I will say. We brought some pretty good food. And then the second year was interesting because there was the seniors had moved out, and so there were like people coming in from middle school, people coming in from just wanting to join, and the seniors moved out, so we're like, okay, this is a little weird because there were more people than just the 20 because it's a bigger program and it's a new year. And that year we were doing Peter Pan. We had to do auditions alone, and by that time I was okay with auditioning. It's still scary, but I got better with it. And I happened to get Wendy's understudy, and so I was like, oh no, I need to learn this because I've never had a big part. Mind you, the Cinderella, I was the footman. and ensemble.
Because she literally was like, they're like, what do you want to audition for? She's like, the footman.
Yes.
And I worry that I may not get the role. And I'm like, oh, honey, you'll probably get the role of the footman because I don't think anybody else wants it. So Cinderella, you did footman the second year.
The footman and in the ensemble, and that was really fun. And then the second year, I gained a little more courage. Mm-hmm. We did Peter Pan. I was like, I want to be one of the Lost Boys or like a Brave Girl or something like that. You know, one that has like a speaking role.
Of which, did you get it?
Which I did get one of the Lost Boys, which was really fun. Love my boy Toodles.
Then third year, which is this last year,
Before we get to that, I want to say with the friendship part, though, I got Wendy's understudy, too, after getting the Lost Boy, mainly because I was my brother's understudy for the first year, because we didn't have many boys, and I memorized his lines with him. And so the second year, they're like, okay, you can be a good understudy, and, you know, you might fit Wendy as an understudy, which I loved the girl who was playing Wendy, but I was like, wait, I've never actually, like, done, like, a big role before, and I'm not sure if she's going to be on it or not. She was there for the play, but it was fun, and because I was, like, a little nervous for that, I invited the understudy for Peter Pan to come to my house and have us practice, which she ended up being like one of my closest friends now. Yeah,
which is interesting because this particular friend is adorable, and she's a ranch kid. And I asked her, I'm like, so
that's that was Peter Pan.
Oh, gotcha. Anyway, when I've talked to the other kids at the Homeschool Academy, a lot of the kids are like, I didn't have a lot of friends, and then, you know, except for my siblings, and most of them were really close to their siblings, and then this group of kids became really close friends, and they still are.
Yeah, we have our own inside jokes,
their own little friend group. And so going back, we also, during this time, Katie's freshman year, which would have been our third year of homeschooling, when she did Cinderella, one of the requirements, the whole reason we ended up in that co-op is because I thought this will be a great opportunity for my kids to take college classes. And I called and said, listen, can a 14-year-old go to the state college? And they said, yes. I said, okay, we're just going to pay out of pocket. And somebody there said, why don't you go through the homeschool program through your school district? Because then they'll pay for it. And I'm like, oh, I did not know that. I mean, I do pay my taxes. So that's what we did. And you and your brother both took same classes. Let's talk about how you felt as a 14-year-old going into classes with college students and non-traditional students. There were some that were my age in the classes. How did you feel going into it?
Well, I was glad I had Josh with me because, like my mom said, I'm a little more on the shy side. And so it was weird going back to school, but it was just a class. And so you go in there and you sit down and the teacher talks at you and you take notes and you learn, you do homework. And it wasn't that bad. And then we did the public speaking class, and there was like, you just had to speak in front of people, and it grew. Like, I can talk to people in front of like groups better. I wouldn't say I'm the best at it.
So do you remember, because the first semester you took English Composition 1, and then you took English Composition 2 second semester. Do you remember what you said to me at the end of English Composition 2?
No.
Okay. I will refresh her memory. She was sitting on my bed one night working on her final paper for English Composition 2, and she's like, okay, so literally all I have to do is jump through the professor's hoops, do exactly what they ask, and I get a good grade. I mean, I don't even feel like I necessarily learned anything, but I jumped through the hoops and I got a good grade. And both she and her brother ended up on the president's list and dean's list.
Yeah.
And here they are, y'all, 14 and 15. And they're smart kids.
At that time, 15 and 16.
Oh yeah. Oh, because that's right. Because by the end of the year, you had turned 15, and then he had turned 16. Which blew me away because I'm like, these are college level classes, right? There was non-traditional students in that class that were my age, and then there was normal college age kids in there, and then my kids and a couple other homeschoolers.
I will say with this community college, because it is community college, they allow people of any age range. And so with the classes, we had people who were in high school, and Josh made friends with a bunch of seniors. And we had this one friend who we love her. She took we made friends with her. We're like, oh, happy
Was she in
birthday.
high school as well?
Yes, she was a senior that year. Mm-hmm. And we're like, she took us to all the food places around, and we just hung out. And then we had somebody who was like 45 in our class, mm-hmm. and he was taking public speaking, and he was just the coolest dude ever. We're like, oh,
you're kind of cool.
Yeah, you're cool. And he was like, you are too. And we had like the regular college age students, which some of them are really nice, but some of them are like, oh.
Yeah, okay. So I do have to say, I was really worried, like, oh my gosh, what if some of these college students like offer drugs to my kids or whatnot, like want to affect them in a negative way. But what I realized, thank you, is that they don't really want to intermix with high school kids. And they're like, I'm here to get my degree and I'm going home, so that I was like, oh, whereas like in high school, in the public school, there's a lot of peer pressure to do lots of things that shouldn't be done. In the college setting, it was different because they were involved in their own lives and working and being adults.
Well, with college, I mean, everybody had their own thing. Like they had their own friends, their own study groups, and you can make friends with them, but they're like, everybody kind of keeps to themselves. And like my mom said, like has their own things. Like classes aren't at the same time. They happen all at different times. And so you're not necessarily, like you make acquaintances with people at college, but like unless you're actually looking for a friend, everybody's just in their own little bubble.
Mm-hmm. And they minded their own business. Mm-hmm. So that I was like, oh, this is actually better as far as safety goes for my kids than the local high school would have been.
Yeah.
Which is a good high school, don't get me wrong. Okay. So, and now you're going, she skipped 1 year of college and then did another year last year. And then you're going into another year this year.
Yeah.
Let's talk about for the things that you wish were different as far as homeschooling goes, like things that you feel like you've missed out on.
Well, I wanted to go to one of the school dances because everybody was talking about it.
Mm-hmm. At church, everyone would talk about the school dances.
And, everybody goes to different schools at church. And I still have my public school friend. And I was like, okay, I want to go to one of these dances. And so I asked my friend, and I'm like, hey, can I go to homecoming with you and like a group of friends?
Yeah, not as a date, but like, can you get me into the dance?
Can you get me into the dance because I want to see what it's like. Spoiler alert, we walked around the whole time.
It was boring.
It was kind of boring.
I feel like you came home and it was totally anticlimactic. Like you had been so excited and you're like, what?
Yeah, which I haven't been to prom. I don't think I ever will, but I'm like, I don't know. We've got our own homeschool thing. And other things.
I was going to say, she got excited about the homeschool dances that she went to, but now as far as the school dances, she's like, been there, done that.
I've done that. But so there's certain school events that they're like, you're not allowed, like that not allowed to participate in, and that just, you need groups of people to do. And like, there's like senior assassins and like color dances and other stuff.
Yeah. And not every school does these, but our home-based school does. So she's aware of it going on.
Multiple, like our home like the school
A lot of
that
people
we
in the
live next
district,
to.
yeah.
A couple schools in the district do that, and so people at church would like talk about it and be like, "Oh man, like that sounds fun." But there is this year actually, because I'm a senior. There's a friend of mine's mom was like, "Hey, let's get together and do senior stuff, because we don't want you guys to miss out, and we want you to have like the best senior year." So like we've done multiple meetings, and we're gonna do a lot of fun stuff for senior year because
we can.
Like, and like we don't have to be in school to do it. I will say one thing that did frustrate me was I know in this school that we live next to, I know the person in the yearbook committee, and I was like, "Hey, if I ever wanted to like sneak into the yearbook, could you get me?" And she's like, "No, you're not a student. No."
Darn
and I
it.
was like, "Not even one picture." I feel very hurt.
So, but it sounds like though you don't, and correct me if I'm wrong, you don't feel like you've missed out on really anything that the public school kids that you're friends with at church do.
I mean, like there's certain things because they talk about it so much, and when you hear them talk about it, it's kind of frustrating. Well, it was not as much anymore, but when I was like still like in the middle of homeschooling, like my first year of, I guess, the enrichment program,
like
of high school
or freshman year,
they would just talk about it, and I'm like, that's all you talk about, and now you're talking about these fun things, and I'm doing a lot of fun things, but you don't want to hear about those because it's not something you guys can connect with, I guess.
Okay, so this is something that I found super interesting is when I'd watch the homeschool kids talk to the public school kids, like their friends at church and everything, because I've gotten to watch a lot of interactions. The homeschool kids are really good about asking questions and like, tell me about this and tell me about that, but it's not reciprocated. And so we talk about socialization, and yet I've noticed that it's been the homeschooled kids that we've associated with and that we've seen that actually are far more socialized, if we want to use that term. Like they're far more emotionally aware. They have far more emotional intelligence than their counterpart public school peers. Now, I'm sure that that's not the case all the time everywhere because everyone's different, but that's been my observation, is that the homeschooling kids have far more emotional intelligence than the public school kids. And I think part of that reason is because of the relationship with the parents, that they're still mimicking and observing parents and how parents should behave. And that's how adults should behave, which goes back to peer versus parent orientation, which I talked about a few weeks ago. Now, that is an episode you don't want to miss. Okay, so let's talk about then, to close up for today, the things that you've appreciated or learned the most due to homeschooling.
Well, for one, I've definitely learned how to be around people better, because in school you're just walking, doing your own thing, trying to make friends, and then there's cliques. Just like how to talk to people better. And I'm trying to get out of that, like my comfort zone more for that, and talk to more people. I've learned how to be in front of people without being scared, because this year I was a main role on stage, and so I learned how to better like project my voice and be louder and be out there. I've learned more about history than I probably would have ever learned. I still don't like math. I'm sorry.
We've tried so many curriculums, y'all, and other things. Although when you were doing the flip house with Dad last year, sometimes we'll do fix and flips, and she's learned percents. But when they went to Home Depot or Lowe's to look at something, and something was like 30% off, and my husband's like going, "Oh, it's 30% off," and then he explained to her percents in context in real life, she's like, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing." and here she had learned it in school, but out of context, so it didn't mean anything to her. And then she's like, Mom, in like 2 minutes, I learned percents and I get them.
A little over exaggerating.
No, like you, is it though? So other things that you are, what are some of the things that you're grateful for as far as that you wouldn't have experienced had you been in the public school system?
I'm grateful for the opportunities that I get to learn outside of school, because like they tell you what you learn, and I'm glad that I get to learn the things that I want to learn. Because I'm homeschooled, I've gotten more into like working with my hands. I've learned the things I've wanted to learn, and I even could get a job when other students couldn't. And it's been a really fun job because I get to watch a child who is the most adorable child I have ever seen.
Oh yeah. So because she's homeschooled, somebody approached her and said, could you nanny a couple days a week for me in my house while I work from home? And she her boss is like, I couldn't have done this with a public school person.
Or even an adult.
Or an adult. She's having a hard time finding adults. And so Katie's been able to do that and she's like, oh, and you can work on, your homeschooling stuff while you're here too, as long as you're not in the middle of watching baby.
Yeah.
But what advice would you give to those parents as well as kids thinking about homeschooling?
Oh, that's hard. But I think if you're struggling with school, maybe trying homeschooling out for a day or two.
Or longer.
Yeah,
I can't really homeschool for a day.
I had this friend who, which is funny, no intention of trying to get her to homeschool, but we had this camp, and she was so frustrated with school. Like, she was telling me all her frustrations with school and how she was in all these like situations that she didn't want to be in. And I was like talking to her about my experience with homeschool, and she's like, that sounds like so much fun. I want to try that. And she has a lot of friends now. Like, she homeschools now.
Yeah, so she's been homeschooling for a year.
Which I didn't mean to do that. And this one lady's like, so I heard you got her into homeschooling. And
we're recruiting.
And she's like, I heard you got her into homeschooling. And that kind of sounded like she's like, oh, don't try to get my kids into it. But I promise it's not like that. I was just sharing with her like how much I enjoyed homeschool over public school. Because the freedom and she's happier now, is what I've seen. And so it's gonna be hard at first, I will say, but try new things, because I never knew I would have liked embroidery if I hadn't. Look at all the things you can do and create, and you'll have more time for it. And so it's really good to be homeschooled now.
Love it. Katie, thank you for taking the time. Thank you for taking the time with me in our basement to do this interview with me. Y'all, I think for me, the best thing that's come out of homeschooling is the relationship with my kids, even if we do squabble sometimes. I love being with them. They love being with me.
Oh, I love my mom way too much. I think I love being with her more than she likes being with me. Let's be honest.
That is not true. That is not true. They all liked me to tickle their backs, and sometimes I feel like that's the reason.
That's more so Jacob and Josh. I just love my hugs.
So I've got great kids. But y'all, like, for me, the relationships have been worth every hard piece of homeschooling. The relationships have made those hard pieces absolutely 100% worth it. And so anyway, Katie, thank you again.
Thank you, Mom.
Mamas and papas, grandmas and grandpas, you are doing so much better than you think you are. You got this. We'll talk next week.
Love you, Mama.